Hi, I'm Shailee, in case you don't know, and I'll be your host today. So, welcome to our second webinar in the series Demystifying the Path to Success. Just to let you guys know, we still have three more amazing leaders lined up for you, so you can hear from the top industry professionals and their path to success. So, you can find our website with the link in the comments to find more information about Shape Your Future and also for other details about our other speakers. So I interview a new speaker every Wednesday from 4:30 to 5 Pacific time, so be sure to join us every week. So now I'm very pleased to introduce Anand Contractor to you all. So Anand is currently the Corporate Vice President of Technology at Walmart, and she has held amazing titles at both American Express and at PayPal previously. So Anand has been very successful in her technology career, starting off as a software engineer. She has done a lot with her career and has actually been recognized as the 2018 Woman of Influence by the Silicon Valley Business Journal. So Anand, me and the audience cannot wait to hear more from you. So tell us more about you.
Thank you so much, Shailee. I'm really honored to be part of this, right, today. And all of you, congratulations for taking time to be part of this. Shailee, I'm so pleased, the youth today, like you, is taking initiative, right, and speaking up. And what you see behind me is Ruby Bridges. On top of everything that you mentioned, Shailee, I'm also a project cornerstone reader for YMCA. Some of your schools might have that program, maybe in elementary grades, right? And I read to in the classes of my 6-year-old Ruhi. She's a kindergartner, and Rahil is a middle schooler. So I've been reading for 6 years, and Ruby Bridges is one of my favorite books. And spirit of everything that's going around us, the courage that Ruby showed, to be the first one to be part of the schooling system that, created the segregation and eliminated the desegregation by the race and color of your skin. I think, all of you who's making time to really participate and really further your career, take initiatives, are going to change the world starting tomorrow. So I'm really pleased to be part of this.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like we all, of course, totally support what's going on in America right now. I'm so glad you touched on that. So I'll dive right into the questions. So first, what I really wanted to know is I know you're super busy with your work at Walmart, but you also, like you said, like you managed doing like YMCA, doing like reading to your kids. How do you balance your work and personal life?
Yeah. One of my mentors had this writing on the first page of her book that she carried, all the time. And it had her priorities written down, in this order, right? It's health, because if you don't care for yourself, right, nothing can follow after, right? Second priority was family, because what's constant through your life is the people that are around you and how you care for them. And the third priority was career. And that, for some reason, Shailee, resonated so well with me, right? In putting a perspective that how do I kind of take some time out. And sometimes my kids tell me, why do you have to go for your Bombay Jam class today? And I say that I need to stay healthy. Right? So that's part of the priorities that you make in your life. That's true from how you manage your schoolwork and your hobbies. And I see you do so many things and balance it out. My advice is that carry it through. Things are going to change in different phases of your life and your career. There are going to be times when you will have to kind of prioritize it differently, right? But it cannot be permanent. You really need to kind of integrate these aspects of your health, your kind of family, your own hobbies, and your mental strength that you bring in. And if you bring your whole self to work, then I think career will become really easy, right? It will not be burdensome for you. So that's how I look at it. I integrated like working from home, and I think how the workforce and place is changing from last couple of months. It is going to provide opportunity. It can go one really far way where because you are remote, you can just end up working all day long, right? Or you have to remind yourself and say that working virtual means working on all the priorities that you have in life holistically. And if you do that, it becomes easier to become a kind of whole self and carry yourself as a whole self to work.
No, yeah, I think that's really great. Like, like you said, like making priorities of kind of like what's important to you. Like, you don't want to get too carried away with like school and work. You want to have a good balance. I think that's a great way to make sure you're getting that balance of your health, your family, and of course, your work and career. So, kind of going off of that, I know you in India, you were really close with your family. So, did your family impact your career decisions in any way?
Yeah, end of the day, like if I go back to early days, right, and what was the influence of the family in making early choices, and then how those choices pivoted, over the period of time. So, being born and brought up in India, right, I did my undergrads in India. At that time, in engineering fields, there were very few kind of females, right, who would pick that as a career. And even though my parents were very supportive, from eighth grade onwards, I've been taking kind of various software engineering classes, and they exposed me to that bottom of, I call it I-shaped leadership. What that means is early in your days, you go broad and you get as many experiences as possible. Then you pick something where you want to go deep, and then again at some point of time you start expanding broad, to continue growing further. So I'm talking about the bottom of that eye, where even though my parents were very supportive, they nudged me early on to say, hey, are you sure you want to go into engineering? And in moment of that, I decided that that's not for me. Okay, so I started out not being an engineer, right? And making a different choices that made a combination of information science, business, and some of the application software application classes that I took for my undergrad course. And when I came to United States, along with, I migrated here with my parents in late 1999 timeframe, early 2000. And at that time, my parents gave me complete freedom to explore again. And where the world was, it gave me opportunity to try out software engineering. I thought, I'm born to do this, right? And I pivoted. I went to Ohio State University. I finished some of the math credit that I needed to in order to go into computer engineering masters, and did my masters in computer engineering and engineering management. So family definitely had influence into my early choices, but they also did not prevent me from doing what I loved to do.
Yeah, that's really great. Like I know like even myself like it's kind of hard to see what you want to do when you're so young. Like if your parents are both engineers and they're like, "Oh, you should be an engineer." It's really great. Like it's kind of hard to see what you else you could do besides like what your parents and your family do. Do you have any tips on how students like us can kind of explore different fields? Because it's sometimes hard when the people you know all stick to one same like kind of career area. So what do you recommend for kids like us how to explore different fields?
So I think what you're doing with this webinar is spot on, right? It's in a direction to explore, what does different careers look like, right? So that's number one. But, I have this formula, which I have applied throughout my career, okay? And I call it a coffee a month, okay? And what coffee a month is, it's really, I was very shy early on in terms of networking. How do I approach, meeting different people? Like, your parents, their friends are the comfort zones, right? And you can always kind of ask them and lean on them and, ask a few questions. But likelihood of them, in a bunch doing similar things, like you mentioned, is is very high, right? So you need to go outside that comfort zone and you need to feel comfortable knocking on a door. And knocking on a door could be writing an email on LinkedIn to someone. And I'll bet, a lot of us never say no, right? I get so many pings on my LinkedIn and say, hey, can I have a coffee? And I started out like that, at PayPal was the first time that I learned about this, coffee a month. And since then, I've been very diligent, internal to my, I would say corporate environment, external in terms of expanding my mentor list. Or, just out of curiosity, I want to learn something. I don't shy away from pinging their door, right? So I think that would be the way to go.
Yeah, thank you. That was great advice. I think that's a really good point. Like, even though we think that everyone might not be interested in helping us, a lot of the times if we just ask, like people won't say no. Like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? They'll say no. You can always try to ask other people. So, you mentioned that like you kind of started off at PayPal that way, and I know you worked at PayPal for quite a while, and you reached like amazing leadership positions there. So, how did you kind of like scale the ladder to get to such a high position, starting off kind of like just entry level?
Yeah. PayPal was amazing. I spent almost 10 plus years, at PayPal. You can almost say that, I grew as who I am as a leader, as a person. It has a lot of influence of what I did at PayPal, who I interacted with PayPal, and right. So holistically, if I have to break it down, Shailee, in terms of how you grow in any company, right? It's really a mix of three things. Your ability definitely counts. That's the very first thing that you need to have in order to kind of do something. So you need to constantly go in a depth of what you do and how you do. You need to do that really well, right? But that's not enough. A lot of people I see, even in what the schoolwork that you do, you need to be really good at kind of understanding your subjects and work hard and make sure that you are writing tests. But that's nowadays is not enough, right? Everyone does that, right? So what differentiates you from everyone else? And that's where comes two things. You need to have ambition, right? Many times there are cultural taboos or there are kind of gender taboos which prevents you from stating your ambition. And I will not shy away from saying that being a woman in engineering, right, and from a specific, I would say, background, I was built that way. I was very shy about saying I'm ambitious, and at PayPal, I got help to change that. And I knew I was ambitious. I am ambitious even today, right? And there is nothing wrong in that. You just need to know what is your ambition, and it is different for everyone, right? So don't stereotype. Don't look at everyone say, oh, at PayPal this person is doing this, that's why I want to do that. No, like what is your core of the ambition? So I kind of learned to state that, and then based on that you need to be agile. So 10 years that I spent at PayPal, it was not doing one thing. It was broken down into five things I was able to do, and spending enough time that gives me learning, that allows me to deliver some good results, build trust. And then, that kind of points to a next opportunity to do something different, learn something different, interact with new people. How I break it down: when I started out as an engineer, at that time I was working on integrating the experiences for eBay. eBay was the mothership, PayPal was kind of just bought by that. And I was brought in to kind of, do work in that area. I did that. And then, in 18 months, I was asked to step into a leadership position to become a manager of, that, group. I thought about it, that is that for me or not? I was very young and it was early on in my, career. And quickly, I realized that, yeah, I'm made for that. And I jumped into it, right? So I kept going, towards that. Then came the whole era of mobile. And at that time, I was leading pretty large charter, doing all of the experiences, for PayPal's kind of merchant-facing technologies, and pretty large, team also. When mobile came, I jumped in to lead the mobile commerce, with only 10 people team. It was a very small team, but it was an opportunity. I wanted to learn more about, how to build apps for the smartphones and things like that. So that satisfied my need, that told everyone around me that she's agile. She can go into a new area and can deliver equally amazing results in that, right? So that built trust. And then when the PayPal started going into the offline market, PayPal here was a product. It was a small startup within big PayPal. It was my opportunity to do something that was not core of a product, and a brand new product that needed to be launched. So I jumped into that. And then again, that gave me confidence that, oh, I can do that. I can build a product for scale, and I can build something that is brand new, not proven, from the green field, and do something, with that and grow that big. So when that team got decentralized, right, PayPal was about to get spun off from eBay. And at that time, they said, Anand, partners and marketplaces is going to be core to our strategy. Can you go and lead that? Right? So it's a chain effect that you are creating with the three A's: your ability, agility, and your ambition. If you put a good use of all three, then you can kind of really continue moving forward, conquering everything that comes in your way. So that's how I would kind of break it down.
No, yeah, that was amazing. That perfect. Like 3 A's, easy to remember. You were mentioning like when you were agile, you were able to like kind of jump into different positions and explore different things and build your confidence of things you weren't very familiar with or haven't worked with. So how do you become that well-rounded and be able to be so agile and fit in all these different positions you were offered? Like, was there something you did in school or you did while studying that helped you develop these skills to become more well-rounded?
Yeah, very first thing in that comfort zone is your appetite for taking risk. Okay. And because you have to be comfortable with it first, right? And uh, you must have read that a lot of you might experience that we self-doubt a lot, especially kind of again, not stereotyping it, but in the girls and women, it's the ratio of that, as studied by a lot of experts, is pretty high, right? And again, to our coffee a month talk, what can go wrong, right? You have your whole career, right? There's so many different companies. You can take chances somewhere else also. You are not stuck to kind of one path only. And when you have that realization that you have options, right, that gives you ability to take risk, right? So that's number one. But then just taking risk and jumping off a cliff is a bad idea, right? So then what do? You have to prepare for it, right? And preparation is two ways. I think many times when you grow and become a leader, and when you look back, it's not just about your own smartness. So when I went into the mobile area, was I the mobile expert? No, right? Was I able to learn enough, get into it, get my hands dirty, build the first, look into the iOS code? Yes, right? Being a technologist or being a student, make sure that you have nailed down your foundational concepts of why you are doing what you are doing. If that part is clear, then exploring new technology would become very easy, because the question you would always ask is why, right? And I recommend you go deep enough, up to 5 whys, till you have understood exactly the root of it, right? And if you create that habit, then in the case of like, when mobile came, yeah, concepts are very similar. Customers are shopping on web. I have built the web application. Now they're interacting with mobile. They're interacting with mobile differently. So I need to factor that in. Why are they kind of, using mobile phones, right? Because it's handy, it's in their hand all the times, it's easy for them to go there. So how would I do it differently when someone has to go open their desktop, open the browser, and then look into the application, versus how I would build it differently for mobile, right? So if you continue that path, it gives you clarity. And the third thing, as I mentioned, it's not just about you being smartest. Can you surround yourself with the people who are smarter than you? Can you really collaborate? And that collaboration, you guys do that today in your project work, right? The work that you do for school or outside school, right? That is essential part, from the get-go, to learn that, it's not just you who's in the center. If you can inspire people for the action, around you, especially the people who are smarter than you, then you can create that magic.
No, thank you. That was like really great. So much advice, super helpful. I think we can all definitely learn from that. So I think we have 10 minutes left. So if anyone would like to start putting some questions that they have for Anand in the Q&A, we can answer those. In the meantime, I think while we wait for one, I just wanted to ask you, like, what's your favorite thing to do to relax? I know work can get really stressful, like at Walmart, corporate vice president. So what's your favorite thing to do to relax?
Well, my kids can say that, I can't wait to jump into my Bombay Jam class. A lot of people around me know that. I'm dancer at heart, and that is my stress buster, hands on. That keeps me healthy, that keeps my mind healthy, that gives me creative boost, and that's something I cannot give up.
Awesome. So I think we have our first question. Was there a point in life where you felt like giving up?
Oh, did I feel like, I'll tell you this. There are times in life where it becomes extremely hard. It's not easy for you to kind of, continue moving. And as you go through the transitions of your life, there are going to be moments where you will feel like, okay, what's my path forward? And that happens, being a mother, right? When kids were born, they were very young. Um, and we were like any kind of typical family where my husband's career and my career, dual career, you are managing through that. You have very young kids and your career is peaking at the same time, right? And it feels overwhelming, at that time, right? I've been very lucky to have a amazing support, from my husband, my kids, who have always cheered me to keep going. But outside of that, it's not easy, right? And my advice at that time is ruthless prioritization. It will happen, many times at work, I'm overwhelmed because there are five key decisions lined up and you really need to kind of address them all. And how do you do that? And only way of kind of looking at it is, again, one of my mentor taught me this and I have kept it very close to my heart. Doesn't matter what the situation is, how dire it is, or kind of just to get through the day or month, always look at your top three. And that's really ruthless prioritization. You really need to know, what would a success look like for you for that hour, for that day, or for that month. And the times, like these, really helps you in terms of breaking it down. If this is my priority at that moment, then how am I going to deal with it? How am I going to delegate? How am I going to find help, around me, to keep me going? Or what am I going to give up? It's okay sometimes to say that I'm not going to take that promotion, because it's not a right time for me, right? And I'm going to come back, after having my little ruhi, and I'll pick it up from there and keep going, right? So I think, yes, I think that's how I look at it, the times when it was hard.
No, yeah, that's great. Yeah, like I think one thing that you said that I really wanted to point out, like it's like success for you. Like when you feel like giving up, just like kind of like planning it like by week, by month, by year, where do you want to see yourself end up? That can really help you get out of like whatever situation you're in.
Yeah.
So our next question is, what are your thoughts on women and technology today versus when you started your career?
There is definitely a lot of progress made. Um, 2007 was the year when I went to Florida to attend, Grace Hopper conference. It was 800 engineers across America who came together, right? To and they were pure technologists in engineering roles, right, coming together just to get kind of inspired and kind of share notes in terms of how you're doing what you're doing. Last year, Grace Hopper Conference grew to 20,000 attendees. And that also because, there is some restriction now capped in terms of number of people who can come together and attend, right, in one venue. I see that there is a lot of awareness. I see that there is the right conversations about it. Though, if you ask me, have we really moved the needle, from where I was in 2007, looking just as pure data in my organization, less than 20% of female represented. Today, it's 24%, a little bit better, but quarter is not enough. We live in a 50-50 world. And if this is a right choice of a career, then, we should be able to see 50-50 at all stages. I shouldn't be feeling lonely on the top, being one of the very few female leaders, right, in technology especially. So I think a lot of work to be done. And that's why I'm talking to all of you. Don't shy away. If this is, look, no pressure. Again, you don't have to do that because your parents are in technology, right? But if you think this is what you enjoy doing, don't shy away. It's for us, and we can wear high heels and be there at work and be ourselves. You don't have to change yourself to be in tech.
Yeah, that's so great. Like, don't like all women are welcome in tech. All women are welcome to engineering, technology, computer science, anything. Like, if that's what you want to do, just go into it.
Go for it. Yes.
So our next question is, do you have to be good at math and science to be in the engineering field?
Yeah. I would break it down in terms of what is kind of, the math, right? End of the day, it's logic that kind of, is important in terms of, what you are writing, why you are writing, right? And it's optimization of something. It's the numbers that kind of, gets you to certain outcomes. And I recommend you asking this question to Paritosh. He is a PhD in math, next week. So he'll be able to tell you, break it down for you really well in terms of, the math. I would suggest that being computer engineering and science is a very broad area. And it depends on, which part of it, you want to go and make a difference. So it's important that from math and science, instead of taking literal, right, I would say outcome of that, you think about, what it teaches you and how you apply it. So for example, I have spent my entire career writing application, which is a topmost layer. It's a user interface layer. And how you apply math and science in that layer is very different from what Paritosh does, and so that's why I'm asking you to ask that question again, because in order to do what he does, you absolutely need to have, a level of expertise in math, right? But not necessarily to do what I do, right? So you need to break it down and really think about it, about the applications differently.
Yeah, it's like good to, like, if you're great at math, you can do something which in technology is requires math. If not, then you can still be in technology. It's so wide, everything you can do.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So our next question is going to be, did you know going into college that you were going to major in technology?
No, I did not, as I mentioned, right? Early on, when I went to college originally, it's really kind of, about my parents influencing me to discouraging me to kind of, consider a different choice. When I came to US, I decided that this is where I'm going to be, and I made a pivot. So it's okay to not know, explore and keep going.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I am afraid to say, but that is all the time we have for questions. Anand, thank you so much for your time today. The audience and I definitely really loved all the great advice and tips from you, and I think we can definitely all use what we learned here today to become successful in the future.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I had so much fun talking to you, Shailee. And I hope, everyone got something out of it, right? You don't have to take it literally. You don't have to mimic, what my path is. Everyone will have a unique path. And I wish you all the best. You're going to be all successful in whatever you do.
Yes, thank you. And viewers, I just want to also say thank you so much for your participation and thoughtful questions. And I just wanted to let you know that next week we'll be hosting Paratosh Desai, just as Anand said, and we'll be hearing from his experience as Target's ex-SVP and his previous position as Chief Data and Analytics Officer, and all about his success with data science, AI, and machine learning. So don't miss out on that, and you can register with that in the link in with the link in the chat. And just thank you everyone so much for joining us today, and I'll see you all next week.